Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video where in today's video we are going to be doing my full 1 to 400 scale collection update for the summer of 2025. I apologize that this is coming out a little bit later than I had anticipated. It has been more than 6 months now since the last one, but I got my wisdom teeth out a couple days ago and have been feeling kind of rough, so kind of finally starting to get back to normal, but I do apologize if my voice sounds a little bit off. I'm still not 100%, but you know, good enough to record. So as you can see in today's collection update, it's going to work a little bit differently than past ones. So normally I've kind of set up my collection on this table over here. This is the biggest table I have. I don't have enough space to set it all up on one table anymore. And so for today's video, I decided I would take a look at my collection as I actually display it in my room, which is on these two big white shelves. These are basically built into the wall. They were here when I moved to this house, and they make an excellent place to display all of my 1 to 400 scale aircraft. But I thought this would be a little bit interesting, switch it up a little for this collection update so you guys can actually see how these models are displayed every day. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling on here, so without any further ado, we're gonna get started with this section of the shelving. Basically, this section is everything US, passenger and military, plus UPS and FedEx down there at the bottom. The rest of my cargo is over on this side. But yeah, so without any further ado, we're gonna go ahead and get started with some wide bodies from the big 3 US carriers. Starting off right here, we have a United 767-300, a United 767-300 in the Star Alliance livery, a United 767-400, a United 787-8, a United 787-9, a United 787-10, a United 787-10 in the Continental Globe colors, a United 777-200ER in the Star Alliance colors, a United 777-200ER in the Evo Blue livery, and a United 777-300ER. Moving on to American. Interesting note about American and Delta as well. I actually have both of those airlines' entire fleet, including all mainline and regional aircraft in my collection now, which is a really cool milestone. I'm almost there for United. I'm only missing 1 regional aircraft, but I do have their entire mainline fleet. Anyway though, moving on to American here, we have an American 787-8, an American 787-9, an American 777-200ER, and an American 777-300ER. For Delta here, we have a 767-300, a 767-400, an A330-200, an A330-300, an A330-900neo, and an A350 in the gorgeous LA-28 livery. With that, let's go ahead and move on to some of the narrow bodies and regional aircraft for the US Big 3. Starting with American here, we have an American Eagle CRJ-200, an American Eagle CRJ-700, second one of those, American Eagle CRJ-900. We have 3 American Eagle ERJ-145s, 2 in the Piedmont release and 1 of the Envoy release. We have 2 American Eagle Embraer 170s, 1 in the regular livery and 1 in the Envoy retro livery. And then we have 3 American Eagle Embraer 175s. All of these are the most recent Envoy release. Getting started with mainline, we have a recent pickup from Airliners, which is of course my American A319 with fence tips, absolutely gorgeous model. We have an American A319 with sharklets. We have 3 American 737-800s, 2 in the regular livery and 1 in the One World livery, and an American 737 MAX 8. We then have 2 American A320s, 1 with IAE engines and 1 with CFM engines. We then have 2 American A321s, both in special liveries. I'm definitely looking to get a regular livery American A321 at some point, but we have the PSA retro and the flagship Valor. And then finally for American there, we have our A321neo. Moving on to United, which is to this day the largest airline in my collection. We have 2 United Express CRJ-200s in the Evo Blue livery and 1 in the Continental Globe livery. We have 2 United Express CRJ-550s, a United Express Embraer 175, or Embraer 170, excuse me, and then 3 United Express Embraer 175s, 2 in the Evo Blue livery and 1 in the Continental Globe livery. For mainline here, we have a United A319, a United A320 in the Evo Blue livery, and a United A320 in the Stars and Bars Retro. We have 2 United 737-700s, 1 in the Continental Globe livery and 1 in the Evo Blue livery. We have a United 737-800, definitely need to get some more of these. We have 2 United 737 MAX 8s. We then have a United 737-900ER in the Continental Globe livery and 2 of those in the Evo Blue livery. We have 2 United 737 MAX 9s, a United A321neo. We have a bunch of United 757s. Starting off right here, we have the 757-200 in the Continental Globe livery. This is the 2014 Gemini Jets release. We have a United 757-200 also in the Continental Globe livery with the Scimitars, most recent NG release. We have the United 757-200 in the new livery. And then we have 2 United 757-200s in the unfortunately recently repainted Her Art Here liveries. We have the California and the New York. Super sad that these are no longer in the skies, unfortunately. And then finally for United here, we have a 757-300 in the Continental Globe livery and 1 in the Evo Blue livery. All right, now moving on to kind of an awkward corner where my Delta narrow bodies are. I'm gonna do my best to get the best shot I can of these guys. Starting here, we have a CRJ 200, a Delta Connection CRJ 700, 2 Delta Connection CRJ 900s, a Delta Connection Embraer 170, and 2 Delta Connection Embraer 175s. We then have 2 Delta 717-200s. We have the original release from, I believe, 2013, I want to say, and the most recent release from Gemini Jets. We then have a Delta McDonnell Douglas MD-90. Next right here, we have a Delta A220-100, a Delta A220-300, a Delta A319, a Delta A320, a Delta 737-800 with the blended winglets, and a Delta 737-800 with the Scimitar winglets. We then have 2 Delta 737-900ERs. We have a Delta A321 in the Thank You livery, a Delta A321 in the regular livery, a Delta A321neo in the regular livery, and a Delta A321neo in the gorgeous 100 Years livery. Next right here, we have a Delta 757-200 with no winglets, a Delta 757-200 with winglets, and a Delta 757-300. Concludes it for the US Big Three. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other US airlines. This shelf right here is kind of just Alaska and Hawaiian, as well as some charter airlines. So starting off right here, we have 2 Alaska Embraer 175s. We have 1 in the regular livery and 1 in the Horizon Retro. We then have an Alaska 737-700, an Alaska 737-900ER, an Alaska 737 MAX 8, and an Alaska 737 MAX 9. Moving on right here, we have a Hawaiian 717-200, a Hawaiian A321neo, a Hawaiian A330-200, and a Hawaiian 787-9. And then for some charter aircraft here, we have a World Atlantic MD-83, I believe, an Eastern 767-300, a National A330-200, and the gorgeous Dreams Take Flight Boeing House Livery 787-9. Love that model. Moving on to some more other US airlines, kind of more low cost this time. Starting with Southwest here, we have a 737-700 with blended winglets, a 737-700 with split scimitars, and another 737-700 with split scimitars. This one is the Panda models release. These two are the NG releases. Next here, we have a Southwest 737-800, a Southwest 737-800 in the New Mexico 1 colors. We have 4 Southwest 737 MAX 8s, 2 in the regular livery, and then our 2 retros, Canyon Blue and Desert Gold. Moving on here, we have an Allegiant Airbus A319, an Allegiant Airbus A320 in the new livery with sharklets, an Allegiant Airbus A320 in the Travel as Our Deal livery with fence tips, and an Allegiant 737 MAX 8-200. Next here, we have a Frontier A320neo in the Baja the Whale Shark livery, a Frontier A320neo in the Poppy the Prairie Dog livery, a Frontier A321 in the Steve the Eagle livery, a Frontier A321neo in the Chopper the Great White Shark livery, and a Frontier A321neo in the America's Green Airline livery. I believe this is Frederick or Edward the Bald Eagle, one of those. Next right here we have a Spirit Airbus A320, a Spirit Airbus A320neo, a Spirit Airbus A321neo, this is a Spirit Airbus A321, Spirit Airbus A321neo, sorry about that. Next right here we have a JetBlue A220-300 in the Hop's tail, a JetBlue A320 in the High-Rise tail, a JetBlue A320 in the Blueberries tail, a JetBlue A320 in the new livery with the Spotlight tail, and a JetBlue A321 in the Prisms tail. And in the back row here we have a Breeze Embraer 195, a Breeze Airbus A220-300, a Sun Country 737-800, a Republic House Embraer 175, a Mesa Airlines CRJ-900, Air Wisconsin CRJ-200, a Contour ERJ-145, and a JSX ERJ-145. Moving on to another shelf over here, this is just kind of my small military fleet. We have a Dover-based U.S. Air Force C-130, a Dover-based U.S. Air Force C-17 Globemaster. We have, of course, our U.S. Air Force VC-25A Air Force One, and a U.S., before it was called the Air Force, B-29, really cool model. And finally, for this shelf down here at the very bottom, we have FedEx and UPS, both fleets which have grown a little bit with two really awesome additions. Finally got the A300s for both of these. Spent a lot of money. I think it was like $230 for both of them, but finally have them. Definitely worth it. Been needing those in the collection for a long time. So yeah, starting off right here, we have a FedEx 757-200, a FedEx 767-300, a FedEx Airbus A300. We have a UPS 757-200, a UPS 767-300, a UPS Boeing 747-8F. We have a UPS Airbus A300, and of course a UPS McDonnell Douglas MD-11. And with that, that does conclude our first shelf right here, our kind of US shelf. Now let's go ahead and move on to our second shelf over here. All right, so this section of my collection is all of my basically international fleet, just outside of the US fleet, as well as my retro down there at the bottom, and the rest of the cargo aside from UPS and FedEx. So we're gonna go ahead and get started up here at the top with Virgin Atlantic, fleet that has grown quite a bit. Starting off right here, we have a Virgin Atlantic 747-200, their very first aircraft, maiden Voyager, which is an aircraft I've been wanting in my collection for such a long time. Finally picked it up at Airliners. Next here we have a Virgin Atlantic A330-300. We have three Virgin Atlantic A330-900s. We have the two Gemini Jets releases, GVSRB with the 40th anniversary sticker. We have GVJAZ, the first Gemini Jets release, and the Aviation 400 release, GVTOM. Moving on, we have two Virgin Atlantic 787-9s. We have the Aviation 400 release, which is GVSPY, and the NG Models release, which is GVZIG. We then have two Virgin Atlantic A350-1000s. Our first one right here is one of the Phoenix Models releases, which is GVPRD, and the NG Models release, which is GVEVE. We then have a Virgin Atlantic Airbus A340-600, and then two Virgin Atlantic 747-400s. We have the 2016 Gemini Jets release, GVXLG, and the 2019 Gemini Jets release, GVBIG. Fleet that has grown quite a bit and will be growing more. They're my favorite airline, and I can't stop buying Virgin Atlantic planes. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with the rest of the fleet here with our first shelf. This kind of has some Central and South American carriers, just Latin American carriers here in the front, as well as some European carriers in the back. Starting off right here, we have an Aeromexico Connect Embraer 190 in the new livery. We have an Aeromexico 737-800 in the older livery. We have a Volaris A320neo in the Cien Aviones livery. We have an Avianca A320, still with the slightly older titles with the capital A. We have a Copa Airlines 737 MAX 9. We then have a Norse 787-9, an ETA A330-900 Neo, a TAP A330-900 Neo with the 100th aircraft sticker. I think that's what that is. Yeah, 100th aircraft. We then have a Condor A330-900 Neo in the beige stripes. We have an Iberia A350-900, a Finnair A350-900 in the One World livery, an Air France A350-900, and then moving on to our next shelf right here, which is all European, including some short-haul aircraft. We have a Luxair Q400, a KLM City Hopper Embraer 190. We have an Aer Lingus Regional ATR 72-600. We have an Aer Lingus A321 Neo LR. We have a Ryanair 737-800, an Icelandair 737 MAX 8, and an SAS A321 Neo LR. Next here we have a Lufthansa A330-300, a Lufthansa 787-9, a Lufthansa A350-900, and the gorgeous Lufthansa 747-8i in the retro livery. We then have an Austrian 777-200ER in the 60 years livery. We have a KLM A330-200, a KLM 787-9 with the 100 years sticker, and a KLM 777-300ER. Moving on to our third top shelf right here, we have a mix of British Airways aircraft as well as my pretty small Canadian fleet. So we'll get started with the Canadian aircraft here. We have a Porter Q400, an Air Canada Express CRJ 900, an Air Canada Airbus A220-300, an Air Canada Airbus A320 in the toothpaste livery, and a WestJet 737-800. We then have a BA City Flyer Embraer 190, a British Airways A319, a British Airways 787-8, a British Airways 787-10, a British Airways A350-1000, a British Airways 777-200ER, a British Airways 777-300ER, a British Airways 747-400, and a British Airways A380, the gorgeous Aviation 400 release. All right, now moving on a little bit lower here, we have some of our kind of Middle Eastern and Asian aircraft. Getting started with Turkish right here, we have a 787-9. We have an El Al 787-9 in the Jerusalem of Gold livery, an Etihad 787-9. We have an Air India A350-900, not really Middle Eastern, but kind of just got thrown in with the rest here because it's the only Indian aircraft I have, so don't really have a specific section for them, but I gotta say their new livery's really grown on me. I do really like this model. Next here we have a Qatar 777-300ER, an Emirates 777-300ER in their newer livery, and an Emirates Airbus A380 still in their older livery. And finally, down at the bottom here, we kind of have the Far East of Asia and Australia. So getting started all the way in the back there, we have a really cool model that I've been wanting to add to the collection for such a long time, which is the Air Koryo IL-62M. I really have a soft spot in my heart for those old Soviet aircraft. They all look so neat. So I've been wanting to get one for such a long time and figured if I'm already going to get an exotic aircraft, why not get a North Korean aircraft? So yeah, we have an Air Koryo IL-62M, which is a really cool, it's also one of the last IL-62s still in service today. But yeah, next right here, we have an ANA 787-9 in the Star Wars R2-D2 livery. We have a Japan Airlines 787-9, a Qantas 787-9, and a kind of random model I bought because it was super on sale, but a Virgin Australia 737 MAX 8. Figured if I already collect so many Virgin Atlantic aircraft, and I do like Virgin Australia's livery, figured why not get a Virgin Australia aircraft? So yeah, now I have an Australian short haul fleet started apparently. But yeah, that concludes it for that shelf. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to my cargo shelves, which has grown a little bit since the past update. I've been trying, well actually it's grown quite a bit. I don't know what I'm saying. I actually do have quite a few newer aircraft in here, but Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and get started with our DHL 737-400, a DHL 737-800. We have a DHL 767-300, second one of those. A DHL 777 freighter, a second one of those. In the back there, we then have a Kalitta Charters 2 737-400, a Kalitta Charters 2 727-200, a Kalitta Air 747-400 in the mask livery, a Kalitta Air 747-400 in the new livery, and the unfortunately now retired Polar Air Cargo 747-8F. These aircraft are, of course, still flying, but not with the Polar titles anymore. Polar were fully absorbed by Atlas Air, unfortunately. But I'm definitely going to miss seeing these guys at CVG. They're really great-looking aircraft. I always thought their livery it's very clean. It's very nice. It suits the 747 well. So I'm definitely going to miss seeing these guys around, but do still have the model to remember them by. Moving on to our next little cargo section here, we have an Amerijet International 767-300. We have two Cargojet 757-200s, one with winglets and one without winglets. Interesting note on these guys, I actually have every Cargojet model ever made in 1 to 400 scale. It's only been these two as of yet. I'm hoping we get some more, but unfortunately for the time being, it's literally just these two dual releases that NG did. And I have both of them, which means I have them all, which is kind of weird. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of neat. Next right here, we have the gorgeous Atlas Air / Apex Logistics 747-8F, the final 747 ever built. We then have two Prime Air 737-800s, both are the NG models release. We have a Prime Air 767-300, definitely want to get a few more of these. And we have a Prime Air Airbus A330-300 BCF. Or not BCF, P2F, excuse me. BCF would imply that this is a Boeing aircraft. P2F is what Airbus uses. But yeah, and then finally moving on to some retro aircraft down here at the bottom. We'll get started right here with a Sobel Air 737-800. We have an Egypt Air 707. We have a Continental 737-200 in the red contrails livery. We have a Continental Micronesia DC-10 in the Continental Globe livery. We have an Iceland Air Vickers Viscount, kind of an interesting model I picked up at Airliners. We have a Planet 727-200. This was one that I had in my collection a long time ago. This was, I believe, the second or third Gemini Jets model I ever got when I was like 6 years old. Of course, being a small child, I absolutely destroyed it. And I no longer have that model in my collection, so I thought this would be kind of a fun one to get a new one of since I saw it on sale at Airliners. So yeah, I just picked it up. Next right here, we have a Braniff 720, definitely an interesting aircraft to have in the collection. We then have our two Concords, British Airways and Air France. I would still really like to get a BA Landor Concorde. I always thought those looked really nice, but for now I've just got those two. In the back here, we have an Air Canada Airbus A340-300. We have an Iberia Airbus A340-300. We have an Iberia Airbus A340-600 and a Malaysia 747-400. Moving on to our other retro section here, we have, so we'll start off with United here. So we have a United Express CRJ-200 in the blue tulip livery, a United 737-300 in the blue tulip livery. We have a United DC-8-21 in the Sawbass livery. We have a United Boeing 747-400 in the Battleship Gray livery. We have a Northwest Boeing 757-200 in the Bowling Shoe livery. A Delta Boeing 757-200 in the Widget livery. A Delta McDonnell Douglas MD-11 in the Colors in Motion livery. We have an American Eagle ERJ-145 in the older livery. An American 757-200 in the chrome livery. And an American 767-300 in the chrome livery. We then have a Transworld TWA 747-100 in the most recent, their last final livery, I guess I should say, which I really enjoy. A Transamerica 747-200. And then all the way on the back there, we have a US Airways Express Embraer 170, a Southwest 737-700 with no winglets in the Canyon Blue livery. We have a National 727-200, a different National 757-200, we have an Omni Air International 757-200. And finally, to complete the collection update, we have an Allegiant Boeing 757-200, and the Travel is Our Deal livery. And with that, as I said, that does conclude my entire 1 to 400 scale collection. I don't believe I mentioned in the intro how many models I have, but as my most recent count, it was 271, which is just absurd. I genuinely can't even believe that. There's so many. It's just crazy, even to me. I mean, obviously, I see them every day. It shouldn't be, but it still is. Just walking into my room each day and seeing all these model aircraft really brings a lot of joy to my day. I gotta say, they're my absolute favorite thing. I love collecting so much. If you can't tell, obviously, I buy all these tiny pieces of metal just kill some time, but yeah, I absolutely love collecting. So it's just really crazy to see how much my collection has grown. And I always enjoy hopping on to do these collection updates, and I really hope that you guys enjoy them too. But yeah, that does conclude it for this one. We're taking a look at all of my model aircraft. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and if you have time, leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts. How many model aircraft do you have in your collection? Do you even have a model aircraft collection? What scale do you collect, if you do collect? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. So with that, I hope you guys do have an absolutely incredible rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.